says more about your intellectual capacity than it does anything about Creaky. Creaky does not lie to his viewers, and the visual aids that he uses in his videos usually come from accredited sources. And he actually does research to support the points that he's making in any and all of his videos.
Even the average Joe in the street now has cottoned on to this guy and is highlighting the fact this guy's a liar, a con man, misrepresents people.
It's quite brave of a Flurf calling somebody a con man when your entire identity revolves around you deceiving people about something as basic as the shape of the earth. And in the process, trying to convince them that you are this being of higher intellect because you know something that nobody else knows, the real truth.
We've highlighted him before. We're going to continue highlighting this fraudster until someone on the globe side calls him out.
Did you know there are still people who believe the earth is flat?
Yep, there's many people that believe a flat earth.
Yes, there are still people who believe the earth is flat, no matter how many times it's demonstrated to them that it's not, even by their own peers. And yes, once again, it's Bob and Jeranism. And I'm thinking we can add Dave from DITRH to that list now as well.
But none of those people believe what you link to the words flat earth. Ridiculous maps, models, straw men, propaganda, lies and misrepresentations. None of them.
If what Creaky shows does not
Is this
represent a standard Flurf, I would like you to demonstrate to
reminiscent
me
of
and
what you
everybody
envision as Earth?
what a standard Flurf
Does
is
this
then,
spring to mind?
without using
If I were to
any points
hazard a
that have been
guess,
debunked
you most
by
likely
people
do,
like Creaky,
since this is the
Feynman,
model
Dan
and
Davis,
structure
and
we have been
FDSE.
taught since childhood and continually
I'm
shown
pretty sure you'll find that
today.
what you call a standard
Does
Flurf
universal
and
agreement
what
and
Creaky
popular
shows is a standard Flurf is one and the same thing.
We're no doubt going to see some more propaganda linked to the words flat earth as you con your viewers and misrepresent people like myself. Like I say, I'm a demonstrable realist. The reason I go that way now is because of dishonest individuals like you, Sunshine.
The propaganda is repeated word by word from Flurfs, and then we just come along and show you or tell you where you have gone wrong. Leo, you always claim to be a demonstrable realist. And when somebody demonstrates reality to you where the earth is proven to be a sphere and not flat, you deny or refuse to believe it. I think you should stop calling yourself a demonstrable realist then.
What if it was? Well, if the earth were flat, gravity would work differently, or maybe not at all. Without the earth's spherical shape, gravity wouldn't pull anything towards the center.
Listen, I don't want to be rude, but listen to how retarded this guy is. Unbelievable. Listen here, Nookie Bear. No one denies the way reality presents itself to us. What you call gravity, whatever's at play there, gravity can be overcome by a gentle breeze. No one denies the way reality presents itself to us.
Insults will get you nowhere, Leo. You claim there is something pulling everything towards the ground, but it's not gravity. Well, what is it then? The reason gravity can be overcome by a breeze is because the gravitational force is directly proportional to mass. You don't see a gentle breeze blowing something heavy away, like a brick, or a car, or a house. You need stronger winds. Why? Because the gravitational force is stronger.
The daft heliocentric stories attached to the way reality presents itself to us are denied because they're quite frankly absurd. Gravity can be overcome by a gentle breeze, therefore isn't man enough for your fantasy world.
A Fleur calling the spherical Earth absurd is like an astrologer saying astronomy is absurd. Why? Because On the one pod, you've got something that's completely crazy, like flat earth and astrology, calling something that's proven and based on logic, like the spherical earth and astronomy, absurd.
You, my handsome friend, are probably the worst globe representative I think I've ever come across. The tosh you come out with is ridiculous, embarrassing, so much so that you are waking up people left, right, and centre to the games at play.
If Creaky is the worst globe representative, then Leo, you are by far the worst flirt. Even worse than CC, and that is quite a feat. Like all flirts, it just seems like you are a conspiracy nut. I'm guessing you also believe that there are powers to be trying to control the world, hiding the real truth from everybody, and you, like all flirts, are the only person who seem to notice this. Alio carries on about how Creaky lies and deceives, and fails to mention once how all flirts try to deceive the world and each other. So I think let's leave him there and we end this video for today. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like and subscribe button. I'm Heinrich, the real nuclear physicist, and I'll see you next time. Today, we'll be taking on 5 questions that Mark Sargent sent a scientist. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Heinrich and I'm the real nuclear physicist. Today's video, we'll be taking a look at Mark Sargent's 2018 Flat Earth Conference opening speech, where he claims that he sent 5 science-based questions to a scientist and they refused to answer.
Some months ago, a German television team contacted me because they had heard about my science challenge and had found a physicist at Georgetown University I could debate.
Let's start there. I highly doubt that anybody from a university would contact a flat earther saying that they found a physicist willing to take on your challenge in a debate. I think rather you sent them an email and said, I'm looking for a scientist, here's 5 questions, I want them to answer, please have them answer and get back to me. Any scientist won't debate something that's already established fact. Debates are for opinions, and it's usually 2 sides of an opinion. You don't debate something that's already proven, because then there's no need for a debate.
They also wanted to make it as easy on the scientist as possible, so their idea was simple. They would record me on video, reading 5 quick science-based questions, and then send that recording over to Georgetown, and he would respond in kind.
Well, there you have it. That's also not a debate. Sending somebody 5 questions and having them answer is not a debate, that's a response. Rather say you requested a response from a scientist rather than saying that a university contacted you to debate a scientist.
This is what I read on camera. 1. Long-distance photography. The mainstream science formula for the curvature of the Earth is 8 inches per mile squared.
That formula isn't quite accurate at all. It's a parabola, and even if the Earth is not a sphere, it's definitely not a parabola. Let's derive a formula that's a bit more accurate. Let's start with Earth having a radius of 6,400 kilometers. Sorry, I'm not going to do the miles conversion for you. With that radius, Earth has a circumference of 40,000 kilometers. This 40,000 kilometers means that 1 kilometer covers an angle of about 0.009 degrees. Using these values, we can calculate a height formula from the point where you stand as h, which is your height, is equal to r, the radius of the Earth, times 1 minus the cosine of the angle between you and your point. However, this equation is still not 100% accurate, as it does not take into account the viewer height or the refraction, but still more accurate than 8 inches per mile squared.
An easy comparison would be the falling rate of 32 feet per second, so 8 inches per mile, 2 miles is 2 times 2 equals 4 times 8 inches or 32. 3 miles is 3 times 3 equals 9 times 8 or 72, and so on.
So on and so forth. Yes, I understand what you're trying to say, but it's still a parabola. For accurate measurements of the hidden height, just use an online calculator. There's quite a few of them. They take into account refraction as well as viewer height.
At 50 miles, the curvature is 50 times 50 times 8, coming in at over 1,600 feet of curvature. And yet, with HD cameras, we can pull boats back into frame that are well beyond visual range.
Yes, you can pull boats back into view that hasn't gone over the horizon yet. This image of the boat, you'll never be able to pull that back into view, no matter how far you zoom in.
Not only does the new technology clearly show that it's not a mirage, but the same objects can be viewed in infrared and can be targeted ship to ship by beam radar. Can science explain this? They had no answer.
Yes, science can explain this, and in fact science was used to create this. Now, beam radars projected in a conical shape, with most of the energy at the center of the cone. This cone is projected towards the ionosphere, and it gets reflected to cover larger and larger distances.
Number 2, vacuum versus gravity. The force of a vacuum is measured in units of torr, T-O-R-R.
Now, vacuum force is a force proportional to the volume that is evacuated, whereas torr is a unit of pressure, not force.
Even a low-level vacuum can overcome gravity here on the surface.
Even your arms can overcome gravity when you have to throw them up in the air and say, I don't know what's going on. Why? Because gravity is the weakest of all fundamental forces. Gravity is proportional to the mass of an object, and the lower the mass, the lower the gravitational force. That's why it's easy to pick up a pencil, but quite difficult to pick up a mountain.
In building molecule-free chambers for the manufacturing of electronics, a series of massive pumps are needed to create a 99% vacuum. That's -9 torr.
A negative pressure value just means the pressure inside of the container is lower than the pressure on the outside of the container. Or, in other words, the pressure of an object is lower than the surrounding environment's pressure. Having said that, negative pressure just implies a vacuum. The more negative the value, the better the vacuum. But if we take space for an example, space is a near perfect vacuum. So there's nothing in the environment of space to compare it to get a -10 torr value. The space between Earth and the Moon has a value of 1 times 10 to the -11 torr, which is not a negative value, just a very, very, very small value.
And for the remaining 1%, horsepower isn't enough. It can only be achieved by a chemical leaching process. That being said, how is the -10 torr vacuum force of space not ripping off the atmosphere of this world?
The vacuum of space is not ripping the atmosphere of the Earth because vacuums do not suck. They are not vacuum cleaners. Gravity keeps the atmosphere from escaping, and as you go up in elevation, the atmospheric pressure gets lower and lower. That's why it's called a pressure gradient in our atmosphere. And as you reach the upper parts of the atmosphere, the pressure gradient is so small that it's basically a vacuum.
What is gravity? And remember that there are gases that already defy it, like helium, hydrogen, and fluorocarbons.
These gases do not defy gravity. In fact, they work exactly as expected in a gravitational field. I'm going to use a word that flat earthers are quite fond of using to try and disprove gravity, and that's buoyancy. Yes, helium balloons rise, but they do not indefinitely rise. And the only reason they rise is because there's an intrinsic force pulling the more dense atmosphere downwards. Helium reaches a height where the atmosphere above it is less dense than helium itself, so the balloon does not rise anymore. What's stopping it from escaping into space? You guessed it, it's gravity.
Isn't it more logical to suggest that the atmosphere is being contained in an enclosed, pressurized system? They had no answer.
Well, if you think about it, Gravity is our container. Gravity is the thing preventing the atmosphere from escaping. The fact that you keep saying they had no answer at the end of each question makes me think that either they had answers, you just couldn't understand what they were saying to you, or you made the whole thing up.
Number 3, eclipse shadow. Mainstream science tells us that the moon is over 2,000 miles wide, and yet during the 2017 American eclipse, no offense, the moon's shadow was only 70 miles wide, a reduction of over 97%.
I've already made a video on shadows and why the moon's shadow appears so much smaller than the moon itself, so please just go have a look at it. Here's a quick recap. The dark part of the shadow, called the umbra, is the part that we see during the eclipse. Now that's so much smaller than the moon because the sun is so much larger and further away than the moon is. If we take the whole shadow into account, which includes the penumbra, then the shadow of the moon would be much larger than the moon itself. But because you think that the umbra alone is the shadow, you think the moon should be 50 miles wide.
This is what the equivalent of having a 6-foot man walking in front of a wall where his shadow is smaller than an action figure at only 2 inches.
That would be a great analogy for this example. If the man walking past the wall was as proportionally far away from the wall as the moon is from the earth.
Where do we see this in our everyday lives? We've seen a shadow's actual size and some much larger. Where can we see small shadows? The Flat Earth community says that the moon is less than 50 miles wide, much closer and the same size as the sun. Isn't this explanation also possible? They had no answer.
If this is in fact true, and the sun and the moon is orbiting the earth so much closer than we actually think, please explain how eclipses work. Because if the moon would have gone in front of the sun, and they were the same size and the same distance away from the earth, then the earth would be in total utter darkness. If the moon was a light source on its own and would have gone in front of the sun, then an eclipse wouldn't happen because the moon would still be giving light. This is one point that flat earthers have been using to say that the earth is flat for a while now, and yet you haven't produced a valid model for why eclipses happen then.
Number 4, moon temperature. Science has yet to address this relatively new discovery that the moon generates a cold light. We all know that in the daytime it is 90 degrees in the sunlight, 80 degrees in the shade, depending on the conditions. I know I'm not going to do the Celsius conversion up here, sorry. However, at night, especially when the moon is high in the sky, we see the opposite. While it might be 50 degrees in the moonlight, it's warmer at 60 degrees in the moon's shade, sometimes showing temperature shifts of over 13 degrees Fahrenheit. In addition, under controlled experiment conditions, magnified moonlight is even colder still, again, the opposite of sunlight.
I wouldn't say that anything from the flat earth community can be regarded as a discovery. The reason we reach warmer temperatures in the shade during the night is due to something called radiative cooling. Shadows are usually below something. As the heat from the earth rises up, it gets trapped. That's why it's warmer in the shade and cooler where there's no place for the heat to get trapped. Do the experiment on a night when it's new moon, where there's no moon visible at all, and you'll see that you still get the same results. Why? Because it's not the moon that's giving cold temperature, but it's the earth cooling itself down.
We can generate this with technology today using a cold laser. The question is, why is the moon giving off a cold laser light? They had no answer.
Well, the answer is the moon isn't giving off a cold laser light. Simple as that. Cold laser is just a term used for lasers that use low frequency light, but it's still light. Just like microwaves and radio waves also still light. Temperature is directly proportional to the energy of a laser, and the energy of a laser is directly proportional to the frequency of the light. Now, if it's a low frequency, it would have low energy, meaning low temperatures. That's where the term cold laser comes from. It's not a light that you can shine on something and it's going to freeze it.
Last but not least, the Van Allen belts. A simple yes or no question. Are the Van Allen radiation belts deadly?
Well, there isn't a simple yes or no answer. In short, the Van Allen belts can be deadly. But if you follow certain procedures when crossing them, you can get through them without incurring any harm.
If yes, then how did Apollo 11 through 17 make round trips through these belts with only aluminum and plastic as shielding?
Coming from a background in radiation sciences, I can answer this in my sleep. When working with radiation, there's 3 things to consider to protect yourself: time, distance, and shielding. Time, spend as little time as possible near the source. Distance, increase the distance to the source. And shielding, increase your shielding from the source. Now, you don't have to do all 3 to protect yourself, only one of them will suffice. The missions were set up in such manner that they missed the inner Van Allen belt, and as they reached the outer Van Allen belt, they sped up to spend as little time as possible in the outer Van Allen belt to reduce the exposure to radiation.
No one died, no one got radiation poisoning, nobody even got cancer. I think there's still like 5 left.
When being exposed to radiation, cancer is not a given side effect. Cancer is what we call a stochastic effect. Stochastic effect is when, if you expose to radiation, the more radiation you are exposed to, the higher chance you have of contracting this effect. That still means there remains a chance of never contracting it, doesn't matter how much radiation you are exposed to. On the other hand, radiation sickness, a deterministic effect, which means the more exposure you get to it, the more severe the effect becomes. As I said, Apollo missions spent as little time as possible in the outer Van Allen belt, and that's the reason why they didn't get radiation sickness or cancer that we know about.
Radiation is only stopped by 2 metals, lead and gold. Both are very heavy and cannot be used in aerospace because of their weight.
Wrong again. Radiation is stopped by everything. In fact, there's some forms of radiation like alpha particles that can be stopped by a piece of paper. You can have alpha particles in a glass jar and hold it without the alpha particles ever even reaching your skin. Sure, lead and gold are better shielding materials than paper, but they're also not the only. Tungsten, for example, is even better, and uranium even better than tungsten. Now, in most hospitals, aluminium is used to shield for diagnostic X-rays, and we use something called a half-value layer, which is the thickness of aluminium needed to stop half of the intensity of the radiation.
If the answer is no, the belts are not deadly, then explain the video currently on the NASA.gov website called Orion Trial by Fire, in which NASA clearly states the belts are so dangerous they will not be testing manned capsules because they are unable to solve the radiation problem. Keep in mind, this is not an old video. It was created at the end of 2014.
When NASA says we've been to the moon, you're the first to jump up and say they're lying. But as soon as NASA says something that you think fits your narrative, you're the first one to jump up and say, see, they agree with us. You need to make up your mind. Either NASA's the enemy or they're the ally. They can't be both. The radiation problem that they mainly face is the effect that the radiation has on the navigation and the sensitive equipment that they want to send up. Nothing to do with the people in the capsule, but rather with the equipment.
The scientist viewed my recording and folded like a card table. This piece was never aired.
I highly doubt that this scientist even knew you sent them the video. Here I am, a scientist, and I'm not folding like a card table. Anybody with 2 brain cells to rub together will be able to answer these questions.
All that being said, my name is Mark Kendall Sargent, and I'm a flat earther.
Well, thanks, Mark. Now that you're done, so am I. Thanks everybody for watching. If you really enjoyed this video, hit the like and subscribe button. And on Thursday, we'll be taking a look at Occam's razor. You should really know that you're getting desperate when you're falling back on definitions to prove that the Earth is flat. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Heinrich, the real nuclear physicist. Flatswood went on a debate channel to debate Will Duffy and prove why the final experiment is not really an experiment.
So I'm going to argue against why I say the final experiment is not an experiment, as it's not scientific and it's only a false dichotomy. First, we have to look at the basics. What is science? Well, science, based on definition, is the systematic study and the structure of behavior of the physical and natural world through, note, observation, experimentation, and testing the theories against the evidence obtained.
That is correct, yes. And well done on your copy and paste of a definition of a word. But let me guess, you're going down the same path that Eric Dubay did by saying it's not an experiment, rather an observation. But please do continue.
So we have to observe what we're claiming, and then we have to do experimentation to make it called science. So do we observe the sun? Well, I agree. Yes, obviously we see the sun.
Yes, I agree. We do see the sun. There's nothing wrong with that.
What do we observe about the sun, though? Let's see. We observe the sun moving across our sky. We see that it gives heat energy.
Yes, we see it moving, but what we do not see is it giving off heat energy. We do not physically see the heat energy being given off. Yes, we can feel it, we can measure it, but we definitely can't see it.
We see it lights up the sky. We see divergent rays.
Yes, we see it light up the sky, and we only see divergent sun rays due to perspective. If you are looking top down, they would be pretty much parallel.
We see it following a circuit with its times and seasons. This should be interesting because since Will Duffy is a Christian as myself, and the Bible does talk about the sun following a circuit, it should be interesting to see how he will speak about this later.
The path the sun follows changes with season, but that's due to the Earth's tilt.
We see its change is in angular size based on the weather and just the angle movement. Sometimes you can see the sun huge at the horizon, sometimes you can see it small. It has different optical effects, and yes, we are even able to show angular size change with lens lens caps.
We do not see an apparent change in angular size of the sun throughout the day. In fact, if you use a solar filter, you will see the size of the sun stay continually the same throughout the day. Which would not happen on a flat Earth. And on a flat Earth, the sun would definitely not get larger as it approaches the horizon.
So, next we have to make a hypothesis. What is a scientific hypothesis? A scientific hypothesis is a testable statement that is a prediction of the outcome of an experiment and is based on prior knowledge and observation. So we have to have tested based on a prediction, and we have to do an experiment based on a knowledge of these observations.
We can also simplify the definition of hypothesis, an idea that needs to be tested.
Okay, so what is a hypothesis, you might ask? Well, it's simple. There's just three very basic essential parts. The explanation.
Actually, a good hypothesis has two components, or two features if you'd like. Falsifiability, can it be falsified? And testability, can it be tested? But if you want to continue on this path, let's carry on.
This is the explanation is part of the hypothesis, which means you have to know the independent variable. The independent variable is the factor that the researcher has to manipulate to see if it affects the other variables. The other variables it will have to affect is the dependent variable. So the dependent variable is the other variable that is affected by the independent variable.
Yes, in simple terms, independent variable, what you change during the experiment. Dependent variable, what you measure during the experiment.
So, what is an independent variable? Simple. It is the independent variable are directly manipulated by the researcher, while the dependent variables are not. They are dependent because they are affected by the independent variable in their experiment.
Yes, if we change the independent variable, we want to measure the effect it has on the dependent variable.
So, can we manipulate the cause in the final experiment? No. So, not science. No, it's not an experiment. So, therefore, we can't claim the final experiment as an experiment because it's not scientific.
Nice try, but we can indeed claim it as an experiment. Let's use independent and dependent variables, as this is what you are trying to explain to why it is not an experiment. The dependent variable that we would then have to test in this case would be the number of hours that we have daylight, or the time between sunrise and sunset. The hypothesis would then be as follows. During the month of December, as you move from the equator, which is 0 degrees latitude, south towards Antarctica up to, let's say, 80 degrees latitude, which is where Union Glacier is about, we would see a change in the length of day, or the change in the length that the sun from sunrise to sunset. This change would go from 12 hours at the equator up to a maximum of 24 hours at a latitude of 80 degrees south. Now that seems like a great hypothesis to prove that this actually is an experiment. So let's leave Flatzoid here for himself to think of another way to try and prove the Earth is flat. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like and subscribe button. If you want to support this channel even more, share all my content with your friends and family. I would just like to give a huge thank you to my channel members and Patreon supporters. If you want to join this team, head down to the description, all the links are there. As always, I'm Heinrich, the Real Nuclear Physicist, and I'll see you next time. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Heinrich and I'm the Real Nuclear Physicist. And today we'll be getting a lesson from a flat earther on time zones. The video we'll be looking at today comes from a channel called Flat Earth Banjo, and he's explaining how Professor Dave explains and Michael Sertain does not understand time zones. So let's see where he goes wrong.
So this guy, he came up with this, he uploaded a video a couple of days ago and talking about the Southern Star, and I'm gonna show you his video now, and I'm gonna show how wrong he is.
Somebody facing south, away from north, because this is your north in the middle there, right? Somebody facing south. This guy's facing south, over here. This guy's facing south, over here. All right, they're all facing away from north. And somebody in a boat here in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, okay? Somebody there also facing south. Now, they can all see the Southern Cross above the horizon when they're facing south. But for that to be possible on your flat Earth, look, it has to be there. It has to be there. It has to be there. And it has to be there. So it's sort of like Schrodinger's Southern Cross. It needs to be everywhere at the same time.
I agree. There's no time of day that it would be night in South Africa, Australia and South America. But it can be night in two of those places. In fact, take a look at this image. Now, it's nighttime in South Africa and in the bigger part of South America. And once again, the claim now still stands. If two people, both of them facing directly south, both of them will see the Southern Cross. And that only works if the Earth is a sphere. Because on a flat Earth, they'll be looking in two opposite directions.
Pointed out to him that he wasn't in all four places at the same time. He was going around the table, showing the star at one place at a time. So I went to timeanddate.com, I printed this and sent to him, and I told him that the Southern Cross was in Australia only at the same time he was making that video. One of the things he said that's really crazy is this one that it says the Southern Cross is observable in exactly the same place for the entire night.
I'm guessing, Flat Earth Banjo, that you're a Northern Hemisphere chauvinist. Because, just like in the Northern Hemisphere, Polaris is mostly stationary throughout the night, as it is the celestial pole. The Southern Cross is the Southern Hemisphere's celestial pole. Now, it's not the entire cross, and in fact, it's not exactly at the cross, just a bit to the side of the cross. But it stays in roughly the same place throughout the entire night. It does not move across the sky like Orion does, or like any of the other constellations do. So, how do you explain that on a flat Earth? In fact, a southern celestial pole doesn't even make sense on a flat Earth, because what is it rotating around?
Just like saying that you observe the sun standing at the same place all day, or the moon at the same place all night. And we all know that all the luminaries move from east to west.
Saying that the Southern Cross staying at the same place is like saying the sun and the moon would stay the same place throughout the day isn't even closely accurate. The sun and the moon move because the Earth rotates. Now, there's two poles that the Earth rotates around. What's at the end of those poles if you go into space? Polaris, more or less, and close to the Southern Cross. That's why they don't go around the Earth, but they more or less oscillate around the poles. So, once again, you can't explain that on a flat Earth, can you?
And we're live. I'm just checking if the sound is working. I'm not sure if my mic is picking up, but we are here. Huge thank you once again. It's really amazing that I actually got to 1,000 subscribers. Yeah, that was my goal for 2024, and we reached it right by the end, so we were cutting it close. Now on to 2025. In my first video that I posted this year, I stated that I want to reach 5k. So if we can reach 5k, that would be great. But without having to delay this any further, let's take a look at some of the Facebook science, because this is one of my favorite subreddits. Some of the photos and the stories that people post on this truly amazes me to think that there's people who actually believe this. If they indeed do believe this, because we never know if they are being honest or if they're just in it for the laughs. But yeah, I'm gonna gloss over most of the heavy written stuff. I'm mainly looking for memes to see what we can laugh at and what we can easily debunk without spending 3 hours reading through everything. So if you don't understand that we would see 100% different stars here than we do here, so I'm not sure whoever posted this, but we do see different constellations depending on the time of year, and which is evident that we're not on a flat Earth. I'm not sure in the Northern Hemisphere how your constellations work, but for us in the Southern Hemisphere, Orion is quite a good example. Flat Earth, Sun and Moon. Of course, the Sun's 93 million miles away. What makes you think it's local? If the Sun was 93 million miles away, the Sun's power would reach the Earth simultaneously. I'm guessing you mean the entirety of the Sun's power, because that's the only thing that I can deduce from this. But that's not true, because since the Sun is a sphere, it will go in divergent directions. We get a very minute percentage of the total energy that the Sun expels. Every single inch would be receiving the same amount of power from the Sun. Also not true. It's dependent on so the angle that the sun rays come in at. If it comes in at a flat angle, that power is spread out over a larger surface, which means technically per inch you would receive less power. It's silly to think otherwise, so just a pantomime. Oh, it sounds like LEO pantomime. But yeah, that's flat Earth. That's flat Earthers for you. When you realize you can swap all of this for these people with the ivermectin that think it cures Alzheimer's and dementia, and I'm not even sure what else. Probably cancer as well, because if something doesn't give you cancer, it cures it. That's how these people think about life. Ivermectin doesn't replace all the medicine out there. In fact, it doesn't replace any of the medicine out there. Couldn't even screenshot the post. Keep your tinfoil hat on and add chemtrails to the list. Hunter's laptop. I'm not sure what Hunter's laptop is. mRNA vaccine harm. Who did it harm? Sure, there's a small percentage of the population that might have adverse effects from any vaccine. Not just mRNA. Pandemic, yes, of course, because all the governments in the world banded together and decided, you know what, we can't agree on anything. But let's have all our people be locked down for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. I'm not sure how many months in which country it was. Lockdown, same story. The governments can't agree on anything, but they'll definitely agree on the lockdown because it was planned. Let's be honest. Ivermectin, again, I'm gonna gloss over this because it's not. It's effective as I think it's a parasite treatment. So yeah, it's a veterinary parasite treatment, if I remember correctly. Can't really see there. But HCQ efficacy. I'm not sure what HCQ is. Let's see. HCQ efficacy. Previous meta was conducted to assess the safety and efficacy of HCQ in the context of COVID-19 prevention. Okay, so it did not provide any clinical advantages. Hydroxychloroquine. What type of medication is this? Medicine can cause muscle and nerve problems. Check with your doctor right away. Okay, so you want to drink medicine to prevent COVID just for muscle and nerve degeneracy. I don't want to take that any day. Face mask useless. It's not so. How the face masks work, again, it's if you have COVID, it's more effective than you having COVID and not wearing one. So, yes. Censorship, social media, I'm guessing it's flat earthers and all the tinfoil hat wearers saying that they get shadow banned and all the other propaganda gets pushed. Epstein Sex Island, I'm not sure if conspiracy theorists and journalists, the journalists also quite went into depth on this. Look, I'm not sure who's all the people that's in Epstein's diary. So, yeah. Elite pedophilia. I'm not sure who proved it, but conspiracy theorists sure do believe it. Biolabs Ukraine Plus. Again, not sure what that is. Child trafficking, that's terrible. That's something that happens daily. To merely think that journalists ignore this shows the type of person that writes something like this. Because this is something that affects people all over the world daily. Steele dossier, I'm not sure what that is, and Ukraine corruption. I'm not sure there's any government on this planet that is not corrupt. And that's speaking as a South African. I think we invented the word corrupt. Um, type 3 diabetes, Alzheimer's, and menopause were not common until the 20th century. I've read about, well, type 3 diabetes and Alzheimer's. It's kind of redundant mentioning them together because I've seen, I've read some papers and stuff that they try and link type 3 diabetes as insulin resistance in the brain, which leads to Alzheimer's. So there are some studies trying to prove that Alzheimer's technically is type 3 diabetes. And menopause were not common until the 20th century. I'm pretty sure the average age that people lived before the 20th century was not high enough for them to be able to experience menopause and Alzheimer's. But menopause is a biological effect that women experience because it's something that happens to each and every woman. If there's a million women, if they get old enough, a million of them will have menopause. There's no lady that I'm aware of in their 80s, even 70s, that has not gone through menopause. Oxygenated water cures volleyball-sized cancer. Herbalist cure cancer and herpes. Oh, goodness. I suffered from cancer and was really scared of surgery, but happily I was directed to a herbalist. What's this person? O.C. Liu. He used his herbal medicine for cancer to cure me totally. Look, I've got nothing against herbalists, because technically that's where medicine started. But I personally would rather take a pill than chew on a tree bark, because it's more concentrated in the pill. I'd need less of it than having to go and skin a whole tree to get all the bark. But on the topic of cure for cancer, I spent some time studying. Part of my course was, one of my subjects was oncology. And now the thing with cancer is, it's not like flu. One virus or one group of viruses causes flu, so we know what it is, we've got pills for it, and it's solved. For cancer, it's a bit different, because for cancer, it's different types of cancer, it's different places in the body, different types of cells, different rates that they proliferate. They can metastasize, they cannot metastasize. It might be benign, it might not. So claiming that people hide the cure for cancer just for financial gains is quite silly, because let's say you get lung cancer. You remove a piece of your lung, but some of it metastasized and you never noticed it. Now they test you, there's no more cancer in your lungs. 5 years later, you go back and now all of a sudden you've got cancer in your upper thigh. Now the chances of that cancer being a new cancer is quite small. So if they do a biopsy on that new tumor, the chances are quite high that it's actually some of your lung cancer, so mutated lung cells that went through your body, found a place in your upper thigh, and that's what happens. Then you have cancer in your leg, but it's technically your lung cancer that metastasized. So yeah, it's quite difficult because not all cancers are the same. That's why it's difficult to find a do-all cure-all for cancer. Ancient spark plug. The Koso artifact. The alleged spark plug or metallic structure was found encased in a 500-year-old rock. 500,000-year-old rock. I highly doubt that. It does look like a spark plug, but I highly doubt that it's a 5,000-year-old rock. And I'm not going to read all that. Koso artifact. Out of place artifacts. I'm guessing somebody did analysis on this rock and it's nowhere close to 500,000 years old. Ivermectin and dementia. Again, let's not, Fire, water, figure it out, California. Again, people who do things like this really have no heart. Because if you look at how devastating these fires were in California, or still are, I'm not even sure if they are still going on. But all the videos that I've seen about people claiming it's planned and Biden saying stuff like we should have lit more, and I'm not even sure all the conspiracy behind it. It's terrible. People lost millions, and sure, it's famous people as well, but doesn't make it any less devastating. So if you use the extremely salty ocean water to put out fires throughout forests and stuff like that, you know what would happen? You would basically salt the earth. You would make so that nothing can grow there anymore. And besides that, probably any of the pumps used for these water wouldn't last long, because remember, salt will create salt crystals in anything. Salt water will create salt crystals in the pumps, which would damage the pumps and cause it not to be used anymore. Floods. If there was a global flood, why is it only documented in the Middle Eastern religious texts? Nothing in the Far East documented, that I'm aware of, anything of a global flood. People lived to be over 900 years old, and they were giants in those days and after. So, yeah, it's just young Earth people. They're just a different breed. Lots of water means big things go dead, except for elephants and giraffes and moose and hippos and run. Yeah, look, it's like, what's that guy from Mud Fossil University, Roger, with his mud floods and the dragons and the fish throughout the Sahara, and the amount of food you'd need to sustain those type of big, like, dragons that Roger talks about. The dragon basically have to eat the earth. Did you know Tartaria cities were connected via stargates? Stargates. This sounds like a sci-fi series that would allow for instant travel around the empire. Oh, they mean like wormholes. That's the gist of it. The CIA currently control the last known. If it's the last one, if it's a wormhole and it's the last one, then it would technically not be functioning, because a wormhole connects two points in space. So you need two of them to actually function. To be honest, they didn't say the last functioning one, but they said they currently control the last one. So you need two for it to function. So how do they know that this was indeed a wormhole generator? Oh, Tartaria. Someone's never heard of clouds. Yeah. Oh. Water vapor does not linger, disperse, and white out the entire sky. Yeah, I'm guessing where you live there isn't any clouds, because you know what clouds are? It's water vapor in the air. And the more of them there are, we get bigger clouds, and then eventually we get storms. But this is probably somebody who believes in chemtrails and flat earth. No. Oh, this is cringe. What's this? Not Facebook, but just as stupid. That promotes, a coffee enema. Look, I love coffee. I'm a huge fan of coffee. But I don't want a coffee enema. I really don't want a coffee enema. Okay. Thanks, Paul. So I only saw your chat now. Yeah, thanks for letting me know that you can hear me. Didn't look up the night you met him. He lives inside you now forever. Sperm is alive, it's living cells. When it's injected and swims until it crashes headlong into a wall, attaches and burrows into your flesh. Swims and climbs in your nasal passages in a... This person, whoever suggested or posted this, clearly skipped out on biology class. All of them. All the biology classes. Bloodstream and collects in your brain and spine. If this happens, I'm guessing it only happens in a woman's body, because if it is in a man's body as well, men have sperm inside of them. So if it is in men and women, then men would have been sperm brained and spinal corded like from day one almost. When the human body is hungry, it eats itself. That is true. If you do go into severe starvation, your body does start to digest itself for nutrients to keep your brain going. It does a cleansing process, removing all six. Again, it's if it doesn't give you cancer, it cures cancer. Um, yeah, it doesn't remove cancer first. It removes fat first. So it removes all the fat firstly in your body and then around your organs. And then guess what's the organ with the highest fat content? It's your brain. So if it eats the fat, it's going to eat your brain and you will die before the cancer even kills you. The earth is turning grayer. So I'm not sure if both of them are taken from Google Earth, but this one is clearly taken from Google Earth. As you can see for the elevation changes that they show here in the ocean, so it depends on when this image was taken, if it was 1918. And this almost seems like it could have been taken from the ISS. So the difference, unless that part there might show Google Earth, but either or, Google Earth images doesn't have an atmosphere in the way, whereas taken from the ISS, you have an atmosphere in the way, which might cause it to look a bit more grey. Ooh, a South African flag. I don't know if vaccines cause autism. They don't. You don't have to wonder, and they don't. But one thing I do know is when the entire fake news desperately echoes the same talking point. Debunked claims that vaccines cause autism. They're usually lying. Always remember these outlets' allegiances to their okay. When the fake news desperately echoes the same talking point. So, when any news outlet, echoes the same as the other one, because something is news. Let's take the wildfires in California for an example. Even outlets here in South Africa did stories on it, because why? It's news and it's something devastating happening. News isn't usually something positive. Nobody knows why, but it's usually not something positive. Yeah, but just because everybody reports on it doesn't mean it's fake. The rest of this. The Amish are the poster children. The Amish are the poster children for the vaccine autism links. They don't vaccinate and they have 0 cases of autism. I'm not sure if you've seen Amish people, but there might be a strong case for autism. No polio either. Vaccines have gotten a lot of positive press that really comes from improvement of public health. And horses are the poster children for ivermectin and other dewormants curing cancer. I've never heard of a horse dying from cancer. I just want to see what's the fatality rate in horses and cancer. Fatality rate due to cancer. No horsing around with cancer. Good news, tumors are non-malignant. I see, so that's the thing. They do get tumors. It's just non-malignant, which means it's not aggressive. So they get squamous cell carcinoma. Often we get to talk about curing cancer, still the possibility came close to fruition thanks to fantastic work of Morris Animal Foundation. Okay. The group have a genetic mutation of eye-related squamous cell in Hellfinger horses. Okay, so they do get carcinomas. They just don't die of it because it's either non-malignant, so it's benign, or it doesn't metastasize. So if, like this carcinoma in the eye, if the eye is removed, it will probably be fine. Usually, always lying. Yeah, it's kind of like flat earthers. No, usually. Sometimes the devil will tell the... Oh. Okay. Flat Earth Barbie. Great meme has proven through show. What's ZPE? All that proven was the molecules can exist in 2 different states. Free energy, however, harness perpetual energy through the ether. The ether doesn't exist. Perpetual energy. You can't get more energy out than you put in. Let's start there. So if you put nothing in, you can get nothing out. If you put 10 joules of energy in, if there's no friction, so in a perfect world, no friction, no sound, nothing, no heat, you would be able to get 10 joules out. Now, if you put 10 joules in, you won't get 10,000 joules out. And the ether doesn't exist. It's been showed to not exist. That's a lot to read. I do, however, love Ace Ventura, one of my favorite movies of all time. Moon allegedly reflecting sunlight. NASA image of moon not... You can see the moon there, can't you? So something has to light it up. It's just because the Earth is brighter than the moon there, the moon appears dimmer. So the moon is lit up. How does a random explosion, not an explosion, Big Bang wasn't an explosion. How does a random explosion create the perfect calendar? The sun tells the time of day, the moon tells... Guys, so our days technically are getting longer every year. Something due with the moon's pull and on the oceans slowing our own rotation, which means the days are getting longer. A perfect calendar. So the moon tells the day of the month. The moon phases are 28 days. So from new moon to new moon, 28 days about, 28, probably 28 point something. If we have to then tell the days of the month from the moon phases, we'd need 28-day months, which means we'd need 13 months a year, which doesn't work. The moon doesn't account for the quarter day every year, which gives us a leap day at the end of every 4 years. The sun tells the time of day. How does the sun tell time of day in the North Pole and the South Pole in the summers? It won't be able to. Or even in the winters, because then there isn't sun. The stars tell the month of the year. So I listened to a podcast of Neil deGrasse Tyson mentioning the constellation. So there's a cycle that our sky goes through. I think it's like a I think it's a 100-year cycle. I can't remember. But it's either 100 or something like that, where the constellations shift every 100 years. So they rotate and then they're at the exact same place in like 100 years. So, which also debunks like the astrology thing, because on the day that astrology was thought out, or I think it's 1,000 years, on the day that somebody thought of astrology, let's say 100 years ago, they saw the constellations in their place and said, okay, so you're born here, the moon is there, this is your astrological sign. Now we are almost 100 years past, so we are almost basically 1/12 of the way past. So all the constellations have moved up 1 month. So it doesn't do everything perfectly. Conspiracy theories are wild. Oh yeah, and on the astrology part, so if all the signs have moved up 1 month, if you are born like me in July, because everybody claims you're a Leo, technically you won't be. It would be whatever is the next one. Not the next one, the previous one. I don't even know. It would be the previous sign. Too much to read. Big rice eater and jasmine rice got healthier. Doing research found plastic. That's not plastic. That's just the rice got hard at the bottom of your pot. You should probably clean it before it gets hard. All the wildfire happening out west. Why not pack up some snow from the east, liquid semi-trucks, and take them to... Seems like a win-win solution. So the amount of snow you'll require is immense. So yeah, I don't have really anything else to say there. A mite. This contains cochineal parasite. So a lot of colorants are made up of a lot of stuff. So saying that the red color that is created from this parasite doesn't mean the red colorant has parasite in it. The dye isn't the parasite. It's probably just a protein that is used to create this dye. Solar and wind are more carcinogenic than nuclear or even coal. Not true. Toxicity potential, carcinogenic in CTUH per terawatt hour. Regional variations in 2020. Okay, so coal. I just want to see. They don't say. That's per terawatt hour. At first glance, it might seem like it. I want to go to this website. I think I'll do it later. I just want to grab this so that I can see. And I'll go take a look at this later because I'm pretty sure this graph doesn't show what they think it shows. There are suspected pyramids here in New Zealand that the iwi won't let get unearthed. That doesn't look like a pyramid. A pyramid's a thing that goes up. Look at that. It's not snow. I can't. It's a video. I can't play it. 40 years ago, it was perfectly fine for a cholesterol of level 300. It was never fine to have a high cholesterol. On Instagram, what do they want you down to 150? Do you know that the fattiest organ in the body is... Yes, it's the fattiest organ in the body. But do you know what cholesterol is? It's fat in your arteries, not fat in your brain. It prevents the flow of blood. People are truly dumb. I think I'm going to take a break from this. Let's do Wordle. I do have it here, so let's play. I don't want an account. Fair warning, my vocabulary isn't that great, but let's see where we can start with on this one. Let's see. Let's start with Steam, because I feel that that should be fun. So we do have an S. So no A, no E. So probably an I. Not a T. Cries. Ooh. So CRI and then S should be there. Crisp. Oh, great. Okay, 3 tries. That's better than my average. Let's go. My other favorites, disconnections. I do enjoy this quite a lot. Ginkgo slope emoji angle. Dent, tycoon recess. Mogul, lodge, lunch, pod, karaoke, cycle lift, homeroom, lunch, recess. So those are all class maybe. Hey, guys, school periods. Tycoon, mogul. Lodge slope. So this dent. Cycle angle slope. Left-hand cycle, maybe. No, not even so. 2 or more is wrong there. Dent. This one's quite difficult. Ginkgo. What is a ginkgo? I don't know that word. Ginkgo. A deciduous Chinese tree related to conifers. So that's a tree. We'll get to that video later. Ginkgo. None of the other ones are trees. This one's gonna win. So karaoke's Japanese, ginkgo is Chinese. There's nothing else. Today, ginkgo leaves promote the dietary supplement for many conditions. Chad, do you have any ideas? Because this is stumping me. So, angle. So there's a cycle. No. So a lift. They said this is conifer. Fan-shaped leaf. Since this because a tycoon and a mogul is the same thing. Cycle emoji, a dent, a ginkgo. Let's shuffle. Maybe that'll help. Can I get a hint? No. So cycle, lift. That's stuff you can do in the gym. Lodge. So these are all things. Because there's a ski slope, a ski lift, a ski lodge, and ski emoji. So it's not the emoji. Ski cycle. What's the other ski? Ski cycle. Not a clue. Next time. A mogul. You see, I didn't know that's something at a ski resort because living in South Africa, we don't have any of them. From Japanese. But Chinese tree. So I'm guessing it was then derived. Okay. Should have probably expanded this. Okay. And the last one I want to do here is strands. Play strands. Seeing double. Twins, maybe if I can see here. There's an okay, no twins. Let's go loot. Maybe we can get a hint. Too short. Meat. Or let's Let's see. I just want to get a hint. Coffee. Isn't seeing double coffee. I don't see how they connect. Well, they have two L's, yes. Seal. Lease. Ah, okay. I see. So they've got two. So succeed. So they've got letter. Come on. Oh, they need to have two doubles. So, TT. The only other double close is PP. Don't see a word there. Oh, letters. That's the strands. Okay. Try and get another hint going. And then after this, I'm going to have a look at this video from Eric Dubay called The Big Lie. Because there's nothing that screams flat earther than lying. TTMM. So it's probably something over here. Let's get another hint. Committee. Okay. Go away. Let's go commit. And commit. I can't see this word. I will probably have to start. Whirlpool, probably. I didn't want to do that. That won't work. I didn't even know that's a word. I want to know what that means. Whip, poor wool. What is that? It's a bird. I didn't even know that. Great. Okay. So to finish off tonight, I'm going to have a small look at this terrific video from Eric Dubay. Let me just get the sound on. Should be that one.
Reminiscent of what
Okay, then I just want to fix. Where's my headphone? Over there. Okay, so let's laugh at Eric Dubé for a bit.
you envision as Earth.
Wait, I missed some.
Does this spring to... Is this reminiscent of what you envision as Earth? Does this spring to mind?
Yes, that's exactly what I envision when somebody says think of Earth. But I'm guessing Eric, you envision the pizza.
If I were to hazard a guess, you most likely do, since this is the model
You
instructor.
guessed right. Look at Eric doing something correct for change.
We have been taught since childhood and continually shown today. Does universal agreement and popular consensus guarantee accuracy and truth?
No, universal agreement and consensus does not prove anything. You know what does prove? Images, which of the flat earth I haven't seen any. Scientific backed experiments, which of the flat earth, any one of them that they do, prove the earth is not flat. Yeah, so anything that's verifiable, that proves something. Not consensus.
If I presented a strikingly different model that represents Earth and its true structure, would you dismiss it immediately?
Strikingly different and Earth in its true structure. You do like to use a lot of words. If you are going to show a flat Earth, yes, I will dismiss it immediately.
Saying, seriously, how could 99.99% of the world be wrong? In fact,
It's not 99.99% of the world. Let's ignore all the population. Let's just look at the academia. How could 100% of them be wrong? Because there is no physicist, no astrophysicist, no chemist, no scientist that I'm aware of believes that the Earth is flat.
in fact, I would be taken aback if you did not respond with that general sentiment. This serves as a powerful testament to the persuasive influence of the all-seeing eye.
Oh, and they're looby booby. Let me guess. I'm gonna do this, and then next time one of them does a video and I'm featured in it, it's proof I'm a Mason or something of the Illuminati, and it's okay. I do love all of this.
That entity working from the shadows that has proven to be incredibly effective in propagating and bolstering the illusions and deceit of this well-crafted modern-day psyop.
It does appear that my camera has stopped working. Just hang on a bit. I just want to see if it is. Just give me a quick 5 seconds. Yes, it has stopped working. Let me just fix that quickly. Okay, sure. Okay, and I'm back. Okay, so you have missed my fantastic description of what I just did. So what I was showing is if I do this now, I'm guessing the flat earth is gonna go, that's 100 proof. It's all the globe earthers are part of the Illuminati or the Masons or whatever. So yeah, I'm not. I'm okay. That's also not a 666. That's just saying I'm okay. But I do love taunting them with that. So getting back to Eric and his insanity.
In my countless discussions and debates with a myriad of individuals, I have had to acknowledge the profound influence of the pervasive...
Yeah, if you do a discussion on something, that doesn't necessarily mean that the topic you are discussing is true. I did debating when I was in school. And usually there's two sides to a debate, and the debate is it's on opinion, so not on fact. And usually there's a affirmative, so a side that's for it and a side that's against it. So because the Earth is provably, observably not flat, it doesn't matter if you try and debate it. It's because it won't change a darn thing. If you, however, debate what's something that you might debate, let's say your favorite TV show. There's a love scene or a love story between two characters, and you and your friends debate the idea that if it should work out or not. That's a debate because it's opinion. The shape of the Earth, not so much. This is kind of weird because usually when I do videos, I don't have the video open up in front of me. And now Eric is here, as big as the daylight itself, staring me right into my face. It feels like I'm talking directly to him.
Indoctrination that the world has fallen prey to over the accepted model of Earth, as well as so many other false realities we have succumbed to.
What false realities? Please, just an example. I'd love any example of any false reality that we are now a part of, because there is none that I am aware of. But it's probably something to do with the Illuminati and the Masons.
My discourses have led to either losing new friends or greatly straining long-standing relationships because of this very topic of our home.
Losing new friends. Yeah, losing friends because you think weird let's not swear on this channel. Losing friends because you believe in weird stuff. Yeah, that's too bad. To be honest, if somebody in my friend group was so adamant to con people out of money by saying the Earth is flat, I would also not be their friend. Not because they're a flat earther, but because they're a con man. Because they are dishonest and deceiving people because they know the true shape of the Earth.
I have discovered that this issue is incredibly polarizing, surpassing the most impassioned debates, even trumping the timeless contention over creation versus evolution.
I zoned out. His voice is very monotone. What happened?
Have led to either losing new friends or greatly straining long-standing relationships because of this very topic of our home, Earth. I have discovered that this issue is incredibly polarizing, surpassing the most impassioned debates, even trumping the time.
It surpasses the most passionate debates because it's not debatable. The shape of the Earth is not debatable anymore.
Contention over creation versus evolution.
And now we're there. So we went from flat Earth to creation over evolution. So this video is titled The Big Lie. And the thumbnail is now not showing. But yeah, it's the big lies. The Earth is flat. That's the biggest lie out there.
Through countless discourses,
let's stop
I've
there.
Had ample.
I can't draw. I just want to see something. So from there to there you probably won't be able to see this. I just drew a line on my screen. A straight line from the one side to the other. And guess what you can see there? A big old curve. I want to see, is there a way I can do this on YouTube? Stable volume, playback, ambient mode. I don't have anything. Let's quickly go. Add. I don't have anything that I can add there. But I'll take, stating the obvious, I haven't taken a look at chat in a while. Yeah, camera stopping, part of the conspiracy, you're right. I showed the symbols and my phone picked it up and it's like, oh no, we can't do this. And they tried to silence me. Yeah. And thanks, Adam. Yeah, I'll try and keep up the good fight of misinformation. So we'll see where this takes us. Like, I'm gonna see if I can start doing this full time once it really takes off. But yeah, so I want to have a look at just like 5 more minutes of Eric Dubay. Eric Dubay does dumb. Yeah. So.
Opportunity to observe and reflect on people's initial reactions when confronted with these topics for the first time, even those who are already familiar with them. A discernible pattern emerges where a clear display of discomfort is visible. Many react defensively and show an immediate lack of interest in engaging or in being challenged with this topic.
People are disinterested because it's like saying, did you hear that thunder? It was Zeus, or it was Thor, or whatever. It's like saying something that people have been known for a millennia that it's not happening. The Earth is not flat. It's observably not flat. Now you go to them and you tell them, look, it's flat. Imagine somebody comes to you and says, I just heard the thunder. Thor is angry. You would also not be interested. You would brush them off as insane.
Meanwhile, others might offer a tentative, polite laugh, possibly questioning whether my assertions are actually genuine to begin with.
It's not a polite laugh to question your if you are genuine. It's more like this guy's insane. It's not a polite laugh. It's a laugh.
Or if I am simply one of those guys they have heard about. Individuals who actually believe in things as utterly absurd as an alternative model and structure of the Earth.
It's not an alternative model. It's not insane to have an alternative model of the Earth. Well, it is now, but if you can come up with a model that proves everything from sunsets to sunrises, the 24-hour sun in the south, which you clearly don't want to go see, because then you'll have to admit that you are wrong, and you have to admit to your audience that they've been paying you that you lied to them. You have to show constellations moving. You have to show people in the south in different countries looking in different directions, seeing the same constellations. That's the problems with flat Earth. And guess what? We've been to space. We've seen it's not flat.
Having been intentionally concealed from us.
Stating the obvious, yeah. You, Dubai. A sad individual. I'm sometimes... I don't think if he's sad, but maybe he's just a good business guy. No, he's a businessman, really wants to make money out of anything he can put his hands on. So at this stage, it's gullible people who believe the Earth is flat.
It is considered by most to be so absurd and ridiculous that it is immediately dismissed as being entirely outside the realm of any possible truth.
So I just want to hear this bit again, because immediately dismisses it. It's been dismissed for 1,000 years. I mean, come on.
It is considered by most to be so absurd and ridiculous that it is immediately dismissed as being entirely outside the realm of any possible
It's
truth.
not even outside the realm of possible truth. It's outside the realm of even science fiction.
In essence, it's just too crazy to be true. This phenomenon exemplifies the
Phenomenon.
self-protective
I want to put that Muppets video in now. I don't even have it.
possible truth. In essence, it's just too crazy to be true. This phenomenon exemplifies the self-protective nature of immense conspiracies.
So you're calling out the protection of immense conspiracies. You as a flat earther. Sorry, I was dumbfounded there for a moment. I was really struck mute. Because Eric Dubay calling out the globe Earth as a conspiracy. I mean, that's really taking it to the next level. Yes, Paul, he doesn't have a model. He refuses to get one. And it's like Ali O. Ali O refuses to call himself a flat earther, but he's a demonstrable realist. I refuse to call him a demonstrable realist because it's been how many times that it's been showed that the earth is not flat to him. Yet he still says it's flat. So no, he's a flat earther. The term demonstrable realist has flown out of the window.
The more outlandish they are, the easier they might be to execute, as their sheer incredibility acts as a shield, guarding against...
No. The more outlandish they are, the more proof you'd need to show that it's actually true. Just like a flat earth. Because now, either it's a space pizza in the middle of space, and nothing else is a space pizza, or space doesn't exist, so space not real. So there's a dome over us, and we don't know what's outside of this dome. It could be space and the rest of the planets out there. Or it's an infinite flat plane. That immense weight of an infinite flat plane. I'm not sure you understand how gravity works, but then again, gravity isn't real. Sorry, I forgot. Flat earthers.
Scrutiny and obscuring any possible chance of truth. A quote from Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf: "In the big lie, there is always a certain force of credibility."
This is what he had on the thumbnail. So if you tell a big enough lie and tell it frequently enough, it will be believed. Is that what you're trying to do, Eric? Because you're lying to your audience and you lie frequently to them and they pay you for it and they believe it. So who's the real liar?
Because the broad masses of a nation are always more easily corrupted in the deeper strata of their emotional nature than consciously or voluntarily, and thus, in the primitive simplicity of their minds, they more readily fall victims to the big lie than the small lie.
Eric, to fall victim to the big lie instead of the small lie, yes, it happens. But again, because something happens doesn't mean everything is a big lie and everybody falls for all the big lies.
We have now reached the most difficult topic of discussion in our exploration. We have now reached the most difficult topic of discussion in our exploration, which for many can certainly be a pill too big to swallow.
Fisheye lens. First of all, look at the curve of the wing. It might be, so because wings, planes in the sky might have a curve on the wing. But if we go back to where he took off. Oh, now you can't.
We have...
Is that why you sped it up, Eric?
Fall
Because you don't
victims
want us to see that you're the one using a fisheye lens to prove it's flat.
to the big lie than the small lie. We have now reached the most difficult topic of discussion in our exploration, which for many can certainly be a pill too big to swallow. Despite the unconventional and seemingly impossible nature of much of this content, which stands in stark contrast to our widely accepted
I'm not
beliefs,
even listening to him anymore. I've got no idea what he just said. I think I'm gonna leave Eric. Let he think what he wants. Oh wow, yeah. Sorry, I just interrupted myself, but this is perfect. I found information that all the top science and doctors missed. This is the mentality of every flat earther and conspiracy theorist out there. They all somehow think that they are the only ones correct. Yeah, but I'm gonna leave Eric there with his monotone voice. It's really making me asleep now. Yeah, but thanks for everybody that's tuned in. Stating the obvious, yeah, north-centric thinking. Maybe Antarctica is at the top. So, fun fact. So, why we use Antarctica, why we use north and south as we have them today, is so in physics we've got the left and the right hand rule when you think of motors and generators. But if you work with induction, it's purely right hand rule. So your thumb is in the direction of the current and your fingers scroll in the direction of that the magnetic field is, or vice versa. So that same rule is applied to determine the north-south. So scientists use the right-hand rule. So if you take a look at Earth versus Venus. So Earth rotates this clockwise. So thumb points up, so that's the direction of the North Pole. If we were on Venus, Venus rotates counterclockwise, if I've got or just the opposite direction. So Venus rotates in this direction. So we'll have to use our thumb pointing down. So Venus's North Pole is technically pointing downwards. So Venus has Earth has a North Pole pointing up and Venus one pointing down. If physicists, when they started thinking of this, decided they were going to use the left-hand rule when looking at planets instead of the right-hand rule, Antarctica would have been the North Pole, and then the Fliffs would have claimed that there is, I'm not sure what they would have claimed, because then there is no pole, no continent at the exact pole to create this wall. But yeah, but thanks for everyone for joining in. I'm gonna leave it there. I hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, my goal for this year now is trying to get to 5K subscribers. We'll see how the year goes, because my last few videos haven't done very great. I'm not sure why, because I have used the same hashtags, everything. Used my same tags, descriptions as I usually use, and they just haven't performed. But let's see, there are video coming out every week thus far, so the next video will be coming out next week. I just don't have a date yet. I need to finish editing on that one. And then for February, I'm gonna try and push myself to do 2 videos a week. I'm not promising anything, but we're gonna try and do 2 videos a week to see if we can bump up some of the subscribers. But with that said, I'd like to thank each and every one of you. This was truly fun. I always enjoy laughing at Eric Dubay, because he's he's a handful and he's just entertaining. Yeah, so America's asleep, maybe stream later. Yeah, you see, the problem is with me being in South Africa, it's 9:10 in the evening now already, so streaming later, then I'd have to look at streaming to midnight, which means it's just a lot, because having to stay awake at midnight, up to and midnight. I'm not the youth I used to be. No, I'm kidding. As I do have a wife, and I'd prefer not to stream at midnight. yeah, so I'll try maybe schedule my posts that go live to maybe go a bit later. As a huge part of my audience does come from America, that might be smarter. But thanks for tuning in. As always, I'm Heinrich. I'm the real nuclear physicist, and